Hey guys, so I decided to do another tutorial on making a heart border, and the reason why is because I think that there's a few different ways that you can actually do the heart border depending on what you want your blanket to look like. So I used the same granny square as I did in the first tutorial. I just basically went all the way around. So I'm starting in the corner, so when you start it, you tie it to a corner, you chain 3, and then you do 4 double crochets in the same stitch so you will end up with 5 double crochets in every stitch, and then you skip 4 stitches all the way around your blanket. So if you have a big blanket, it will take you a while to do the first round, and then when you get to the last round, this is where you're going to come up. So you're going to turn your work and you're going to get close to the end, and then you're going to do 5 double crochets in one space every 4 spaces all the way around your work. So you're going into the same space. So you'll have a cluster of 5, see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you're going to work over into the next cluster in the same space. So you go into that same space and you do 5 double crochets. Skip over another 4, and this will be the last one before we slip stitch into the very first one that you guys did. It's 3, 4, and 5. And then we're going to slip stitch into that top chain of the chain 3 that you started the whole thing out. So there is actually a few different ways that you can do the heart, and it depends on what you want. The first tutorial I did was more of a ruffled heart. So how you do that is after you've slip stitched into that first chain, you chain 3, and then you're going to do a double crochet into that same space that you did the chain 3. You're going to do a double crochet in the next space. So we're working in the spaces at the top of your double crochet 5 cluster. So you have 5 double crochets, so you're working in the spaces that are at the top of your double crochets. So we had the chain 3, and then a double crochet in that same space, a double crochet in the next one, and then you're going to chain 1, and you're going to slip stitch into that third, or the middle double crochet out of the 5, chain 1 again, and then double crochet in the next 2 spaces, and chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then slip stitch into that same space that you made that last double crochet, and then you have a heart. So the reason why these are ruffled is because the size of the heart is not spaced out enough because you only skipped every 4. So when you start to add in these chain 3s, they're going to get a little bit more crunched together, and they're going to give you a little bit of a ruffled 3D effect. So if we do another one, slip stitch into the next 5 cluster, and then chain 3, 1, 2, 3, do a double crochet in that same space, double crochet in the next space, and then we're going to chain 1, we're going to slip stitch into that middle, chain 1 again, double crochet in the next 2 spaces, chain 3, and then slip stitch into that same space that you made that last double crochet, and then slip stitch into the next heart, which is the next space over. So then you can see how they're ruffled? Because they're a little bit too big, but that's actually how you want that pattern to look. Now, if you don't want the ruffled look, there's a couple of different ways that you can do the heart. So depending on how big you want your heart, you can actually slip stitch and chain 1, and then double crochet in the same space, double crochet in the next space, chain 1, slip stitch into the middle, chain 1, double crochet into the next 2 spaces, chain 1, and then slip stitch again. So you can see that that heart is smaller than this one, and it's going to be a flatter pattern because you took out some of those chains, so it's going to take away that ruffle. It might not completely take away the ruffle, but that is a smaller heart, probably the smallest one that you can get, where you're going to get the archway very well defined. You take out too much more than that and it'll kind of be flat. So if you go into the next one, let's look at what a chain 2 would look like. So if you do chain 2, double crochet into that same space, double crochet into the next space, chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1, double crochet into the next space, double crochet, and then chain 2, slip stitch into that same space that you made that last double crochet, slip stitch into the next space to get to the next heart, and then you can see that this one is a little bit bigger. You do get a little bit more curvature, but it's definitely not as much as the ruffle that's over here. So one last option, so you have the ruffled heart that's closer together, you have the smallest heart, you have a little bit of more of a definition with the medium-sized heart, or if you love the bigger hearts and you don't want the ruffled pattern, then when you made your 5 clusters down here, you were skipping every 4 chains. I would skip every 5 or 6 chains, because what's that going to do? It's going to divide the space, so it's going to stretch your hearts out just a little bit more. Okay, so you can play around, make crochet your own. This is just a good idea of a tutorial on different ways to do a heart border and make it a little bit different, but so super easy. You do your 5 clusters, you skip every 4, 5, or 6 chains depending on how you want it to look, and then choose the size of the heart and whether or not you want it to look ruffled or not, and then you'll be all finished. So good luck, guys. Enjoy.